Around 3 p.m. on December 29th, 2022, I was lying in this exact spot on the floor, crying my eyes out because my birthday felt like a curse and I didn't want to celebrate it anymore. It was then and there that I gave myself the best birthday present I've ever received. I gave myself permission to stop celebrating my birthday. This video is a love letter to anybody who hates their birthday. In this video, my goal isn't to convince you to celebrate your birthday or to think that birthdays are evil. My goal is to discuss some of the less obvious things that can make birthdays hard and some of the less obvious things that can make birthdays valuable. In order to discuss those things, I have to start by asking you a question. What are birthdays about? This may seem like a really silly question. Birthdays are about you. Duh. And yeah, birthdays are about you. But what else are they about? Everything in this video is going to lead back to one idea. Birthdays are not just about you. They're about your relationships. They're about your relationships to your loved ones, your relationship to the process of aging, your relationship to attention. At the most fundamental level, birthdays are about your relationship to how many times you've traveled around the sun or how many phases of the moon you've lived through. Now that we've laid out a basic foundation for everything to come, let's begin.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Redditors whose birthdays are on 9/11. How is the atmosphere? Do you think about 9/11 when you celebrate? It sucks. I avoid telling people my birthday because it always dissolves into a conversation about where people were or what they were doing when the towers were struck. Or they make the "that sucks" face. I know it's supremely selfish, but I would really like to just celebrate my birthday and not have a national tragedy hanging over me. I just want a normal birthday. I dread my birthday. From elementary school, I have been tormented and constantly made fun of for my birthday. People are really very cruel. I'm convinced I'll never enjoy another birthday again. Thanks, Osama. My cousin's birthday is on 9/11. Her family has to buy her cake days before her birthday because since they're Muslim, they're afraid it'll seem like some kind of weird celebration. A friend of mine's birthday is September 11th. He walked into a bar on 9/11 and said to the bartender, "Ever have your birthday upstaged by a national tragedy?" Forgive me for starting this chapter off with the most extreme example. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. My birthday is not on 9/11, but it is around Christmas, which, if you ask people whose birthday is on 9/11, is just as bad, if not worse. My birthday is on September 11th as well. I honestly wouldn't trade my birthday for a birthday on Christmas or Thanksgiving. When you read from people who have a birthday on 9/11 and from people whose birthday is around Christmas, you start to notice some common similarities. The first similarity is something I admit I only read from people with a birthday on 9/11, but would obviously relate to people with birthdays around Christmas. The degree to which these things are going to affect you is going to be contingent on something else. In this case, that contingency being culture. If you're not an American, then having a birthday on 9/11 might not even raise an eyebrow to you. And if you grow up in a culture that doesn't celebrate Christmas, then you're not going to experience the same hardships as somebody who grows up in a culture that does. The other similarity that you'll notice is that people can respond to the exact same circumstances very differently. Some people think that 9/11 is a wonderful time of year for a birthday, despite its relation to tragedy. Others feel a deep sense of loathing about it, and others just feel indifferent to it. And these feelings of indifference, loathing, enjoying it regardless, they map onto people with birthdays around Christmas pretty well. Piggybacking off the claim that I made in the introduction that birthdays are about relationships, what I think makes birthdays so hard is what I'm going to call haunted attachments, or negative relationships. I'm going to call them haunted attachments instead of negative relationships, because I feel like just calling them negative relationships doesn't really capture what these negative relationships to your birthday feel like. When I was crying on the floor right here, I wasn't sad about my birthday's connection to negative relationships. I was sad because my birthday was a curse. My birthday was a ghost that haunted me. I don't hate my birthday because it's around Christmas. I just find that part of it to be a minor annoyance. I hate my birthday because of all of the traumatic things that happened to me on previous birthdays. My 14th birthday in particular was really traumatic. My 14th birthday haunts every birthday that comes after that. In the introduction, I laid out a basic foundation for this video. And in this chapter, I'm just expanding on that foundation. If birthdays are about relationships, then the thing that makes birthdays so hard is negative relationships, or as I'm going to call it in this video, haunted attachments. And if you take that logic and you flip it on its head, then you find that the thing that makes birthdays so valuable is positive relationships.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
One of the most common reasons cited for someone hating their birthday is a haunted attachment to attention. But people usually don't get into the details of what they mean when they say they hate attention. Is this attention they hate a passive attention, just observing them as they are? No. Oftentimes, this is an attention that is actively desiring a particular you rather than accepting whichever you it happens to come across. It's an attention that wants you to be something. I started hating my birthday when I was 14, but birthdays could be difficult as far back as I can remember. Not only is my birthday around Christmas, it's also within a month of my dad's birthday and my siblings' birthday. From December to February, my mom was just made of stress. And my birthday fell right in the middle of that stressful period. My mom always did an amazing job with my birthday. But the main thing I remember from lots of these birthdays is just my exhausted, stressed out mom asking me if I had fun at the end of it. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I didn't feel like I could say no. And more than I was having fun, I just felt really bad about being the cause of their stress. But my mom didn't want me to be stressed about their stress. They wanted me to just enjoy my birthday. I couldn't bear to tell them the truth about how contagious their stress was. So I always just told them I had an amazing birthday. Yeah, it's this mess of expectations that are more about making other people happy than they are about what makes you comfortable. The haunted attachment to who they want you to be can present itself in many ways on your birthday. Maybe you want to spend your birthday alone, but they don't want you to be alone. Maybe you don't want a birthday party, but they want you to have a birthday party. Maybe you don't really like sports, but your dad keeps buying you sports equipment. Maybe you're transgender. I don't celebrate my birthday. Being the day I was misgendered, I don't really feel like celebrating it. I personally hate my birthday for several reasons. My grandma and some friends expect me to dress in something feminine. Birthdays can be common trigger points. Being the center of attention and all the gendered presents just made me miserable. Let me clarify something real quick. When someone gets you a gendered birthday present, or when your mom asks you to dress nice for your birthday dinner, and by dress nice they mean wear a dress, they're not trying to train you to be the gender they want you to be. We just live in a society. But even so, these things are often about who they want you to be. But sometimes they're more just about who you're not.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Sad birthdays are the birthdays that you feel happy for being born, yet make you feel sad because it is the day someone else was born. Sad birthdays are the birthdays where there is a name on a cake that you do not recognize, yet it is the name you have been called since the day you were born. Sad birthdays are sad because they are not your actual birthday. Birthdays feel like a celebration of the old me, and leave me conflicted between the well wishes of family and knowing who they mean them for. I feel like my birthday is a day meant for old me. It's a day for me to remember what I did with what I could back then, but not who I am. That date was never about me. Something that you might not understand if you're not trans is how people can love you without loving you. Loved ones will still go out of their way for you, get you gifts, help you. They'll miss you if they haven't seen you in a while. But they don't see you. They refuse to see you. So, if you celebrate your birthday with these sorts of people, the best that you can ever hope for is a celebration of who you're not. Being celebrated for who you're not isn't exclusive to trans people, though they probably feel it most profoundly. Usually, people aren't explicitly celebrating who you're not, but by virtue of refusing to celebrate who you are, that's basically what they're doing. Like on December 29th, 2022. I'm a philosophy nerd, so I was trying to center my birthday party around a game night through the lens of Sethai Nugent's philosophy of games as arts of agency. The interesting part of that night was that everybody that showed up recognized me as a trans woman. They were celebrating who I was. But not everybody was willing to listen to anything philosophy related or play these games through any sort of philosophical lens. They were willing to celebrate me as a trans woman, but they weren't willing to celebrate me as a philosopher.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
When we discuss who they want us to be and who we're not, it naturally brings to mind who we are. Editor here. So from this point on in the video, all of the scenes in this room are going to have some fairly significant audio issues as a result of me having gotten way too comfortable waving this lavalier mic around. I had filmed some stuff the day before that I ended up deleting, and I noticed that I could wave my hand around a bit without any issues. So when I went to go film all of these scenes, number one, I was filming from about noon to 8, and I knew I was going to be filming all day, so I didn't stop to review all of the footage. I just filmed and took breaks and filmed and took breaks and didn't review the footage. And I was getting progressively comfier and comfier with waving my lavalier mic around. I think that the chapter that we're in right now is honestly the worst of it. Like, it's pretty bad. It's kind of bad after this chapter 2. I think it gets a little better. I'm hoping that in the future I'll come back and do some retakes, or I'll try to insert some more pictures that I can do voiceovers of or something. I'm going to fix it in some way and release like a version 2 of this video. Only reason I'm releasing this video in the state that it's in right now is because this is like my 4th anniversary of coming out as transgender. It's my transgender birthday, if you will. And I've actually been working on this since before my birthday back in December. I started working on this like in November. So it was important to me to release it on a birthday. Today is that birthday, and I'm out of time to fix all the audio issues. But I'm going to release it anyway, and then just release a version 2 later. So please keep watching. But please do also know that there's going to be some audio issues. Okay? Thanks. We've already recognized that birthdays are about you and who you are, but what we haven't recognized is that birthdays are about the relationship that you have to yourself. There's a famous philosopher named Theodore Geisel who discusses this relationship between birthdays and the relationship between you and yourself. But most people know Theodore as Dr. Seuss. Today is your birthday. Today you are you. If we didn't have birthdays, you wouldn't be you. Dr. Seuss is making a mistake that many racist philosophers make when trying to define what makes someone who they are. He's trying to define the self as independent and non-relational. He's saying that the self only needs the self to define the self. Let's compare Jean-Paul Sartre's Being and Nothingness with Seussian philosophy. Sartre defines two types of reality which lie beyond our conscious experience: the being of the object of consciousness and that of consciousness itself. The object of consciousness exists as in itself, that is, in an independent and non-relational way. However, consciousness is always consciousness of something, so it is defined in relation to something else, and it is not possible to grasp it within a conscious experience. It exists as for itself. The in itself is about objects with a set being. The for itself is about subjects like you and I who must choose for ourselves who we are. Consciousness has a negative power that allows us to experience nothingness. When consciousness is directed at the self, it brings this experience of nothingness with it and creates a lack of self-identity. In other words, consciousness is nothingness. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not nothing. How could I be nothing? Well, think of it like this. When you imagine the color red, you must always imagine the redness of something, right? Like, you can't imagine the color red completely detached from everything else. Consciousness is the same way. It's always consciousness of something. This is why it can't be defined within itself, because consciousness is nothing more than what it's directed on. And it recognizes that it's not all those things that it is directed on. It is the being of the not being something. Sartre uses the example of Pierre in the cafe to elaborate on nothingness as a being. If you go to meet your friend, Pierre, at the cafe, and you walk through the door and he's not in the chair he's usually sitting at, then Pierre's absence haunts the cafe. The absence of Pierre is a real being in the sense that it says something true about the world. It's the fact that everything in the room is not Pierre. And this is how consciousness works. Consciousness recognizes that it's not all of the things outside of itself. We have a desire for being within our consciousness, but our consciousness is nothingness. This desire for unity, this desire to apprehend ourselves as an object rather than a work in progress, creates a task for us to ground ourselves in our freedom. What is this freedom? The name of this possibility, which every human being has to secrete a nothingness which isolates it, is freedom. Our power to recognize what we aren't is our freedom. It's what we must ground ourselves in. Something that we recognize that we're not is our past and our future. I am already no longer who I am, and I am not yet who I will be. I've talked your ear off long enough with a bunch of philosophy, so let me just make my point as simply as I can. Part of what is so valuable about birthdays is that they're a time to project yourself into the future and imagine who you want to remember being between now and then, so that you can become who you want to be.
Happy birthday to you.
In the preface to The Stranger, Albert Camus writes, "In our society, any man who does not weep at his mother's funeral runs the risk of being sentenced to death. like to alter that quote slightly for the purposes of this video. Any man who doesn't celebrate his birthday, and especially any man who doesn't celebrate his child's birthday, runs the risk of being sentenced to death. The main character of The Stranger, Marceau, is literally sentenced to death, in part because he didn't cry at his mother's funeral. But Camus isn't being so literal here. He's not saying that you literally risk the death sentence. He clarifies. I only meant that the hero of my book is condemned because he does not play the game. How does Marceau refuse to play the game? He refuses to lie. Marceau kills a man in self-defense, but in court, when he's asked if he regrets killing the man, he admits that he's just kind of annoyed. It's not really a social faux pas to not celebrate your own birthday. Nobody's going to condemn you for it. But you can absolutely be condemned for refusing to lie on your own birthday. If someone gets you a gift and you say, thanks, but it's not really what I wanted, you're going to be in violation of the code of belonging. If someone cooks you a meal on your birthday, then in order to adhere to some informal rule, you must refrain from saying anything bad about the meal. There's no explicit rule anywhere that says birthdays are mandatory, but it's deeply felt as an informal rule. And it's not just that birthdays are mandatory, it's how you do and don't do birthdays are also mandatory. For example, if you're scheduling a birthday party on a day that's not your birthday, then it's mandatory to make sure that you don't schedule that birthday party on a nearby holiday like Christmas or Thanksgiving. This chapter is most explicitly about the code of belonging surrounding children's birthdays. Celebrating children's birthdays isn't really seen as optional. It's commonly believed to be harmful to not celebrate your child's birthday. To deny children the possibility to celebrate birthdays is not only to deny them an innocent and true pleasure, but it is also very harmful for a normal understanding of coexistence in a pluralistic society. I understand the point being made here, and I'm not saying that it can't be harmful to not celebrate your child's birthday. What I am saying is that I don't think it should be mandatory, and here's why. Not all cultures celebrate birthdays, and to make birthdays mandatory is a nationalistic social pressure put on immigrants to assimilate. Not facilitating birthday celebrations is interpreted as breaking unspoken rules of conduct. It was even considered an act of anti-integration or a signal of developing parallel societies. Children who celebrate together at birthdays are not only creating joy, but it is also good integration in practice. The everyday nationalism of making birthdays mandatory isn't the only haunted attachment one can form with birthdays as symbolic events highlighting codes of belonging. A much more casual haunted attachment might be that making birthdays mandatory creates stress and pressure that can impact how fun birthdays can be. Remember when my mom would ask me if I had fun on my birthday, and I felt like I had to say yes? I feel like I would have been able to actually have fun on my birthday if there weren't so many informal rules of how birthdays are supposed to be.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
You need a change of soul rather than a change of climate. You must lay aside the burdens of the mind. Until you do this, no place will satisfy you. In 1987, Jost Krippendorf wrote a book titled Holidaymakers: Understanding the Impact of Leisure and Travel. In the book, he says that the main motive behind traveling is a desire to escape the monotony of our everyday lives. But I don't think it would be unreasonable to say that this is also the main motivation behind holidays in general, and therefore the main motivation behind birthdays. Homes are often noisy, boring, and in the middle of busy cities in order to stay close to work. Work often leaves us with no sense of purpose, no satisfaction, busy schedules, little free time, loads of stress, and an ongoing anxiety about losing work. It's no wonder that we crave an escape from all of this. But when home and work are the things that fill our everyday lives, the the only opportunities we really have to escape come in the form of holidays. Obviously, there are some benefits to this sort of escape. It recharges the battery, so to speak. So, just speaking in terms of the goodness of this escape, a problem immediately arises. Smartphones. Smartphones produce two problems. The first is that one of the benefits of smartphones is being able to experience home while away from home. If holidays are for escaping work and home, and smartphones keep you attached to work and home, then they undermine the whole purpose of the holiday. The second problem is that one of the biggest benefits to a holiday is experiencing the unexpected. I remember my mom telling me about their travels to New York and how they didn't want to see the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty because they knew what to expect from that. They wanted to go to a jazz bar so they could experience something that would be normal to a New Yorker but completely alien to their everyday existence. When they got to New York, they just asked the person they were visiting, "Take me to a jazz bar." But imagine for a moment that my mom had a smartphone. They could look up every jazz bar in New York, read reviews, look at pictures of the food, watch videos of the musicians that play there. They could pick exactly which jazz bar they wanted to go to. But by the time they did all of that, they would know exactly what to expect from that jazz bar in the same way they knew what to expect from the Statue of Liberty. It would completely undermine one of the biggest benefits to a holiday. If we take a closer look, we don't just find issues that prevent us from experiencing the goodness of escape. We also find issues in the escape itself. We escape from our everyday life. We go on a holiday. We recharge our batteries. We come home and we feel refreshed. For a moment. But before long, we wish to go escape again. And we begin to crave this escape more often. Because the crushing weight of our everyday lives can't be remedied in a couple days or even a couple weeks of holiday. We free ourselves from our chains for a moment, only to have them put back on us a little tighter. We desire an escape from our everyday lives. But oftentimes, when we actually get this escape, we want our everyday lives back. It's like we go on holidays just to confirm to ourselves that our everyday lives actually weren't that bad. This creates a vicious cycle where you always hate the part of the cycle that you occupy and always crave a part of the cycle that you don't occupy. The thing is, you can escape your everyday life, but you can't escape yourself. If you're unhappy, you will simply take that unhappiness with you into your escape. We're all so unhappy and so desperate to escape that more and more the escape itself starts to suck. Crowded roads, delayed flights, noisy and boring hotels in the middle of the city so that the workers may get to it easily, crowded beaches, packed ski resorts. The problem seems to be compounding and folding in on itself. So what do we do about this problem? Let us imagine that the enormous sums of money spent every year on traveling for pleasure were used for the embellishment of our cities and landscapes, the improvement of our workplaces, the search for a harmonious life. Let us imagine that the charm and beauty of holidays could trickle into everyday life. Then all the problems of tiredness and the need for recuperation would be solved by what I propose to call the solution of the heart. No more holidays, or, if you like, endless holidays. True life. Genuine happiness. The solution is best applied systemically, but I think it's still relevant to our personal lives today. Instead of investing in holidays, invest in a harmonious everyday life. And this isn't just about money. Instead of investing all of your gratitude for one another into Thanksgiving, for example, invest your gratitude for one another into your everyday life. Instead of investing all of your gift giving into Christmas, invest into giving gifts to one another more often in your everyday life. Stop trying to escape from yourself. Invest in it. Make your everyday life as much of a holiday as you can. I'm just balls deep. I'm just committed.
Balls, you say.
I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep.
Okay.
I'm talking about balls deep
Lock in.
in love.